Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambremont Webre, and we're with author Dermot Kelly, coming to us from Australia. Welcome, Dermot.
Thank you, Alfred. I wouldn't consider myself as an author as such, maybe a writer or a rambler, but definitely a writer.
Well, you've got a book, so technically you are an author.
I guess so, but I guess those in the literary world don't see self-publishers as authors. So, but you know, it's neither here nor there, eh?
Now, the last time we were together, and I'm looking at our time we spent together here, was an interview that we did. You're in Adelaide in South Australia, and you spoke to us of your personal ET contacts. And I'm just quoting here, your insights that advanced positive extraterrestrial civilizations may be here to assist our evolution and ascension or advancement in our reality. And now we're here again, I must say, and as a fellow author, you know, so we're both authors now. And we're here gathered around your new book. So I think that's great. And if I could share the title of your book, which I think is extraordinary. It's a really neat title. It's weird. The title is Weird. It's my reality. Words can't explain it. Now, I've been around a lot of books, and that's an amazing title.
Well, that was the original title. Eventually, when they published it, it became Weird, a reality that words can't explain.
Oh, okay. So that's not the title that's online right now, is what you're saying.
Apparently, online, a few people have got it, the original one, because that's what it was going to be. But when they did the final edit, they changed it on me. So I've been trying desperately to change it all, but you know what it's like. Stuff gets out there, and it's like, okay, what do you do?
Yeah. So, So tell us a bit about the journey that because there are two journeys. One is the journey of your reality,
yes,
and then there's the journey of how we got from the interview to your book. But there's the larger journey of your reality. And so tell us, give us a little flavor of the book and why weird?
Why weird? Well, let's put it this way. Most people that do know me personally would say weird, definitely. Okay? I've never been normal in the normal sense. I've always been a little bit off centre, a little bit right, a little bit left, in the middle, you name it, I've been everywhere. But generally speaking, I've got a great sense of humour, and although I tend to be serious most of the time, I like to mix it up a bit. And up to the age of 50, I had lots and lots of experiences that I guess, like most of us do, we tend to put to the back of the mind and we try to find logic behind it, and we can't, so we put it in the too hard basket and it gets to the back of the mind. Well, when I first contacted yourself, I don't know why, but throughout my research of many different areas, I realised that I was being pushed, but I didn't know how, why, or for what reason. Now I understand that spirit, or my spirit guides, or some interdimensional reality existence is actually guiding me to contact people. And not only to contact people, but to eventually, which I have done since, is connect different people around the world in different forums and groups and private chats and one thing and another. It was through that process that I started to realise all the bits and pieces at the back of the mind started to awaken me. So I started to write notes on different things, and what I came across was a lot of stuff. And then in private chats with many people, they said to me, why don't you write it into a book? And I said, no, I can't write a book. I couldn't write a 500-word essay at school. So, and they said, well, how many notes have you got? And I said, well, probably 8 or 9 pages at the moment. And they said, well, you know, why don't you do it? So I started it, but like everyone, you know, it just, life takes over and you leave it for a while. And 10 months went by, and a friend of mine in Victoria mentioned to me that she was writing a book. And it went, oh, so am I. But I wasn't. And then it was as if Spirit said, come on, it's time to do it again. But this time, over the space of 3 months, I actually wrote the whole book.
Uh-huh.
And then I contacted yourself and Mary Rodwell to write a review, and I'd like to thank you both publicly for that. Thank you very much. And it's actually on the back of the book. And my good friends Stephen and Evan Strong have also written the foreword to the book as well. Because since our last chat, I've had Stephen and Evan and the Forgotten Origins team here in Adelaide 3 times. So, and we've had some great meetings, and we're still exploring what we can do with that as well. So I've also written about that part of my spiritual connection to the original peoples of Australia. Being a white man from England, well, how does that happen? Well, there's a section in the book about past lives. So
I see.
I go into that. There's a part about Reiki where a friend of mine who was giving me Reiki had an experience of witnessing a large beam of light goes from the ceiling to my third eye. And the minute she mentioned that, I had a, you know how you get the cold shiver down the body? Well, it went from the head to the toe and back again 3 times like that. Washed right through me. So something other than normal reality is happening in the background, which I suppose has heightened my abilities that Dr. Sam Muggsy was talking about years previously, when she didn't even know me and traced my voice, believe it or not, to the Akashic records. And even to this day, when I talk to Sam, she can't understand how she even came up with this, but it's actually starting to make more sense to me.
Now, where can people get your book?
Okay, whoops, spilled water. Currently, here in Australia, I've only just got the physical book, so I'm actually in the process of putting it into some bookstores here in Adelaide.
Uh-huh.
and I'll publish that when the time's right at the end of next week. But online, here in Australia, they can get it from Books for Life Australia, and that's on eBay, and they get free postage. For my overseas friends in Europe and in America, it's available on Amazon.com.
Oh, it is?
It is. And that's currently live now. And it's in the book depository as also.
Oh, good. Do you plan to convert it to ebooks? I know a lot of people use ebooks.
Yes, it was just the reason I'm a little bit slow in getting this all together is because the ebook conversion is actually being done in New York.
I see.
And it's taking time to get here. I believe it's ready, but we're not ready to go live on the website yet because we're still working on the website.
Right, right. Well, I'm looking here at the table of contents, and I'm just going to read it, and then if we can kind of dip in, but you start out with your awakening process, you go into your earliest memories, a UFO encounter. If that weren't enough, you go into weird and unusual happenings. Weird seems to be a favorite word of yours. Then you go into dreams in the astral, past lives and regression, connecting the dots, spiritual connection, my unique perspective, awareness and ascension symptoms, and then various, conclusions that you reach. And so maybe you want to start by just bringing us into what you called your awakening process.
I guess like most people, the first part of the awakening is when you get angry enough at what's going on around you and the stupid laws that the governments of our countries make. A lot of people tend to think left and right, and this side's the bad guy and that side's the bad guy and so on. And I fell into that trap like everybody else. And when one particular party saw how good I was as a union rep, they thought that they would get me to join their party. Well, I decided at that moment, it was all nice and, dandy, so to speak, because it was tea and biscuits and, stroke the ego and everything else. But I asked two questions. I said, number one, if I was to be in your political party, would I have to follow party lines? The answer was no. The answer was yes. You would have to follow party lines. So I said, okay, if I follow party lines and my constituents said that they wanted something else, I'm elected to represent them. Why can't I represent them? And their answer to me was, no, you have to follow party lines. So that annoyed me. I said, well, thank you very much. I made sure I had about 5 biscuits, finished my tea, and I said, see you later. I'm out of here.
Wow.
Because I don't like the idea. You see, most people go into politics to help their constituents. But you see, once you follow party politics, you then become trapped in the system of doing what you're told, which then enforces the public into doing what they're told. And that was part of my awakening process, is that I realised right there and then that it doesn't matter how high up the ladder you go, you compromise one way or another. I found that in the music industry when I was in a rock band. I found that in the political side of things. I found that very much so in the workforce, because I've been in the workforce for 42 years. And I got a little bit angry. So, I guess, you know, you could use the analogy, if you're sitting on a rusty nail, it's going to hurt, correct? Well, for some people, it doesn't. They just sit on it forever and think, okay, life's grand. But it's not. And it pricked my conscience, so the warrior came out. But you see, I guess as we all get older, we realise that anger is not good for the health. So I started to look inwards to help the body, because I was feeling very, very tight, very, very sore. Things were going wrong. So I decided to look inward. And it's by going inwards that I found a lot of the answers, and I tapped into the abilities that I eventually found out that not only do I have, but we all have. And we just need to realise that. So that's it in a nutshell, basically.
Right. Now, so when you say your awakening process, it sounds like that's more of a socio-political awakening, because
yes,
then your earliest memories are really more your paranormal memories. Is that correct?
yes.
Or am I? Yeah.
Well, you see, as I started to go inward, I then started to realise that all the memories I had, the earliest memories that went to the back of the head, it heightened my awareness of what it was, and then I processed it at a higher consciousness level. And then I started to realise that they were all connected. And I don't know how this would happen, to be perfectly honest, but it just happened. And the more I thought about it and the more I analysed it, weird things were starting to happen in my consciousness right now. And then I started to become even more aware in the dream state. So then I started putting it all together, as well as talking with others about their experiences, and it seemed to make a lot of sense. So I guess, yeah, you could mix the exopolitical side of it with the paranormal. I wouldn't say it was like ghosty paranormal, but it was, for example, one incident in the book I talk about when I was 3.5 and I fell into an open heath fire. But the fire was smouldering. It wasn't, big flames or anything. But still, the coals were very hot, but I wasn't burnt. And my parents couldn't understand how I wasn't burnt. And yet, I consciously remember my thoughts at that time. And they stuck with me for years, and I could never understand why I was thinking that way. But what I was thinking at the time was, what's your problem? I'm okay. I'm fine. This will not hurt me. Now, as a 3.5-year-old, why do you think that? So something else is at play. So when you talk about reincarnation and past lives, I then started to realise, and I started to get more memory of past lives. I started to realise that I've been here many, many times before. And then that tied in with what Dr. Sam said, that I'm an ancient soul. Because I've not only ever got memories of medieval times, but I've got times in Egypt and, the Middle East. And as far back as you can go throughout Britain and Ireland, going right back to my ancestry today. So there's connections everywhere. And then, of course, there's a connection here in Australia, which ties in beautifully with Stephen and Evan's theory of out of Australia.
Yeah, and could you talk a bit about that?
Well, this is the other fascinating part when I was joining the dots, is that when I got involved with Stephen and Evan's story, and research, we were finding that a lot of the rocks that they were getting were actually from South Australia, and the geologists were doing all sorts of tests on them, and they not only were they from South Australia, but they had very, very strong properties. And Stephen did warn people, you can't touch them. There's only certain people that can touch them. And the reason for that is because, now this is going to start sounding weird again, but I've witnessed it. So we did tests with the divining rods, and we did electronic devices to do the science part of it, so that people could see that there was an energy emitting from the rock. Okay? But there was also some energy that was able to communicate telepathically, believe it or not. And we got permission by the Ramangeri elder, who's now passed on, and it came through during the meeting, and 3 people picked up the rocks and were able to tell the audience what the rock was actually trying to say. Now, if people dispute this, okay, let's just go back a little bit and try to describe what's going on. When we make computers, we have silicon chips to store information, correct?
Right.
Okay. Well, these rocks have a certain amount of silica in them. So they have information stored in them. Now, when people used to say, you know, hundreds of years ago, if only the walls could talk, well, they could. We just weren't listening. And I witnessed an incident in Ireland when I was in Ireland for 2 weeks. And I mentioned that in the book, where the walls did talk and I heard, clairaudience. But the people with me didn't. The UFO incident, there was people with me, but they didn't see it. I did. Why is that? You see, that's the thing. Why is it that one person in a group can see and hear and all that and the others can't? Is it because this one person's crazy? Or is it that he's tuning in to what's around him at that time? And there's many, many people our age and older even that have got many, many stories that they would love to tell, but they're scared. They're really, really scared because they don't want to be ridiculed. And I guess the reason I wanted to share my story, Alfred, is that I've been ridiculed all my life, in the schoolyard, when I was in a rock band, when I was at work, you name it. And it's like water off a duck's back. And because I've been in the theatre before the rock band, I was used to, you know, being on stage. So I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter. I've had enough now. I'm getting to the age where I think to myself, I don't care what people think. It's now out there. So, you know, they will get their awakening when they're ready. So what I've done at the back of the book is to ask people if they want to share their stories, either privately or even publicly with a different name. It's just one way of expressing themselves and getting it out the back of their minds, because I know what it does to you when you hold on to things. You need to let it go.
Well, that's very interesting. That is a very interesting perspective that you're offering to people. And so, in a way, then, your book is almost like a model, or you're saying, here, this is what I'm doing. You can do it too.
Correct. But it's also...
Sorry, go ahead.
Also, Alfred, it touches on, like you say, different areas of these experiences.
Hmm.
And because it touches different areas, someone somewhere may have an experience that they can't explain.
That's very interesting approach. Now, I'm looking at this chapter that says weird and unusual happenings.
Wow, yeah. Where does one start there? Yes. Like, okay, how do you explain? Now, I work in a warehouse, as you know, and, you know, there's many aisleways to a warehouse. And as we're all aware through exopolitics and through the truth movement that the timelines are collapsing and the negative ones are going and the positive ones are coming in, and it's been sort of, you know, a bit like this for a while and whatever. But I've been noticing different realities in the same moment. Now, how do I explain that? Okay, I'm walking in aisle A, for example, and I'm about to walk into aisle B to pick a pair of boots because we're a boot manufacturer. And all of a sudden, it's as if I'm there on a different day doing a different thing. Yet, I can still see the aisle and I can still see the boot. It's a kind of double illusion, if you could call it that. And then it disappears. Now, the best way I can explain that is a lot of people over the age of 50, especially, you know, in labour-intensive jobs, may at some point have an ache or a pain in the ankle or the knee or the elbow, and then 2 minutes later it's gone as if it never appeared. And you go, how did that happen? It's that sort of experience. It sort of comes and it goes. There's no warning, it just happens. Now, to me, that was kind of trippy. And at first, I was starting to freak out, to be honest. And then I'm looking at the paperwork and the scanner, and they both match up. And then when I get to the shelf, it's like I'm scanning the product, and I go, hang on a minute. It's not that one, it's this one. It's as if the numbers are appearing, but it's the wrong shelf. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a perfectionist when I do things.
Right.
It drives me crazy. So, and then there's other moments when, you know, I'm scrolling on the computer, for example, and you know how you've got your mouse with the scroll button?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I put that down, and then the computer screen goes up and down when I ask a question.
Huh.
Like, not. I don't mean verbally, but what I mean is like telepathically, or you know how you think to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I might be reading an article, and I think to myself, that's got to do with. And before I could finish my sentence in my head, the computer has gone up to another article.
Huh.
And it's the article that I was thinking about. And it's like, that is trippy. That's weird. So
right.
something now, I decided to ask verbally. I said, if this is spirit trying to contact me and give me a message, can you confirm? But what I didn't expect was the screen to go.
I see.
That freaked me out. So then I thought, okay, you know, that's a coincidence. So I tried that many, many times, and it comes up all the time. So, and if it's a no, the screen will just go down and it will stay down.
Huh.
Now, how weird is that?
Right. Well, what you described earlier there's even a Facebook group called Time Anomaly Research Society, and you know, I mean, it's as though they'll have you know, people will report time anomalies where one of the classic ones that you'll hear of is a couple from England or something were vacationing on the French mainland in mainland Europe, and went into an inn and sat down for dinner. And you know, so they had their dinner and they went to pay for it, and it was just a few. I mean, they couldn't believe it, and it turned out that they were in the 18th century. they had walked into the inn in the 18th century, and those were, I think it was 18th or 19th century, and those were corresponding prices. And you know, it wasn't in the 20th or the 21st century. Well, they left, and then they tried to find it again, and you know, they couldn't. It was a time anomaly that they came into. And so it sounds like you are having those time anomaly experiences.
Yeah.
You know, and so that takes me up to your chapter on dreams and the astral.
Oh, wow. Well, in the dream state, you know, for many years, I wasn't dreaming. You know, as a child, I used to dream all the time. But as an adult, I used to have maybe one every couple of months or something like that I could remember. And I never really thought much about dreams. But by golly, in the last 5 years, the dream state has been incredible, because not only am I remembering the dreams, but I'm actually realizing that I'm working in the astral. But I didn't realize it initially. Okay, it was like a slow progress, because the difference I feel with a memory of a dream and working in the astral is in the astral, I'm totally in control of everything I do. And I can smell, I can taste, I can feel, I can do all the things we can do in normal reality, and I'm in total control. So I know that it's the astral. But when I have a dream, I'm not in control. There's a part, and in fact, most people, when they're in dream state, they're not in control. It's as they're viewing as if they're a third person. So that's how I distinguish between the dream state and the astral. And the reason I say that is because I've mentioned a couple of incidences, and I don't want to spoil it for people, but
no, right.
I did surprise myself in the dream state, in the astral. And once I realized I had that ability, I thought, right, now I can go on other missions and do other stuff. But you see, like a lot of people that work in the astral, you will have your memory wiped, because you're obviously working on something that's sensitive, and it's obviously to help humanity, especially as we all know in these days, there's a lot of stuff going on worldwide, and there's literally thousands of people like ourselves that are working in the astral on many different missions to hold the light and hold the energy and the love vibration for everybody. And sometimes we have to do missions that are not too pleasant. But that doesn't matter because we're able in the normal 3D reality like we are now to be able to go out into nature or listen to music or to meditate or to whatever gets you back to where you need to be. And, you know, for years before I had the awakening, I used to think to myself, gee, I'd like to astral travel. Gee, I'd like to be able to meditate, because I couldn't meditate. I'd sit there to meditate and there's too much chatter going on. What I didn't realise was that that chatter was people conversing, and I was picking up on their energy. And there was nothing more prevalent than when I came to Los Angeles in 1992. When my wife and I were visiting her cousins, we were walking down Hollywood Boulevard, the Chinese Theatre.
Oh, yeah.
And I could hear literally thousands of people chatting. And it wasn't the normal chatter. I actually felt the energies. I felt the pain, the anguish of a lot of people in Hollywood.
Wow.
And I picked up on that. Now, that was way before my awakening process. But you see, when I tune into it, I then realized, oh my God, what I was picking up then was that there was a lot of stuff going on. Now, had I have known, I probably could have done a bit of healing while I was there. Because now I'm able to absorb that energy for these people without their knowledge and just walk away and then release it. Because that's something that my soul does naturally. It's not something that I consciously do. It's just something that naturally happens when you're tuned in.
Well, you know, you're mentioning Hollywood Boulevard, and Hollywood. What I learned recently was the origin of the term Hollywood, and a Hollywood is actually a wooden wand that is used in black magic ceremonies. And its origin is that black magic has been a part of the clandestine or covert aspects of the, quote, Hollywood community for many years. It has a satanic element to it. So perhaps you were picking up on, I mean, there have been books written, colleagues of mine have written books on the child abuse, the ritual child sacrifice, the all sorts of horrible things that go on behind the scenes of, you know, where certain actors or actresses are mandated to assassinate others and in rituals, and when they do that, then they'll get the parts, you know. I mean, it's a real satanic place, and perhaps you were picking up on all of that.
Well, it's sad to say, in hindsight, yes, I was definitely picking something up, but you see, back then I had no idea.
Yeah. You know, and so I know we're going through this, and I sort of like to ask you a general question.
Yeah.
And the general question is, how do you feel now that you've written was the process of writing the book a transformational process for you? Like, how do you feel having written the book and having come out the other end?
I don't feel I've actually come out the other end yet, but and I'll get back to that why. But the transformation, actually writing the book, now, because I live in such a small house, there's a lot of noise in the background, so I put headphones on and I listen to some music. So, number one, I'm already in the right frame of mind. So I've got music going, and funny you should say, and I have no idea why I listen to this particular music, because I've not listened to them for years. But I actually put ELO on YouTube, and I listened to about 3 albums while I was writing the book. And the albums were in different eras. One was called Secret Lives, or Secrets, sorry. Messages from, or is it Secret Messages? Oh dear, I can't remember now. Alone in the Universe. What was the other one? Oh, I can't remember. but they were all space orientated and message orientated, and the music just seemed to flow as the words flowed. So it's got that energy. Now, I must say this. Whilst I was writing for that 3 months period, I felt guided to write, and usually it was late at night, and I would only write when I felt like writing. I never sat down at a specific time. Sometimes I would stop writing for a few minutes and I'd go on Facebook or go on Skype for a while and then come back again and finish off. You know, I'm not one to sit down for 3 hours and just do 3 hours. I like to do many things at once. So,
right.
But I would constantly go back and revisit and re-edit many, many times. And yeah, and when I went through the editing process, that was a wake-up call, I tell you. Because it did change quite a bit to what you did a review on. Let's put it that way.
Uh-huh.
So it's a lot more polished now, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. But my sister and my mother, the grammar Nazis,
Uh-huh.
they also had an input too. So just to keep me on the straight and narrow. Yeah.
Well, no, the editing is fine, but you know, going through this must have been you know, because you're going and through your whole life, and you're kind of looking at it through a rear view mirror. And
well, you know, I had to laugh because I was halfway through the book and my daughter came out to say goodnight, and she said, and I wasn't quick enough pressing the minimize button because I didn't want them to know straight away. And she saw it and she says, "What are you doing, Dad?" "Oh, I'm writing a book." "Oh, what about?" "Oh, it's all right. It's all right. Good night. Good night." You know, and then eventually, after a while, I said, "Okay," and I showed them, and I thought, well, why am I hiding it from my family when I'm going to put it out there?
Yeah.
I think initially, while I was writing it, I just wanted it to be a secret until I'd actually finished.
Yeah.
But it came out, and I think a lot of people heard that you were writing a book, and oh yeah, sure, you know, everyone says that. It wasn't until I got it to the editing stage that they realised I was serious. And I have to say thank you to my sister Angela for helping me to finance this, because there's no way I would have been able to do it on my own.
Right.
So, you know, and she realises how important it is to me personally, but not to me, but to everyone that has or can receive the message of the book, which is, like I mentioned earlier, if you've got something that you need to release, then let me be the conduit for you, and we can do that either privately or publicly.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And it was Spirit that guided me to do that.
Right. That very interesting. So you're saying that if people listening to this it may resonate in them, and they may say, oh, well, it may identify,
Yes.
say, oh, I have had many unusual experiences. And so they've gone through a similar process in their lives. And so you can almost be their coach. Is that what you're saying? Or facilitator?
Yeah, I think facilitator is probably a better word than coach.
Yeah, facilitator.
I mean, to some people, you could be a coach, mentor, or a teacher, yes. But there are others that are probably on a much higher level of understanding that have still got secrets that they want to put out there. So they could in turn be my mentor or coach. So it's not a case of I'm on the top branch, you come up to me. No.
Yeah.
I'm on the ground level. Let's go to the top branch together.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Because I think what resonates with me more than anything, Alfred, is that the fact that I've realized and listened to my inner voice, my inner guidance, or my higher consciousness, connecting my conscious and subconscious minds, I've now realized that I'm able to help others. And the only way I could do that was to actually have something out there that people could see or to read. And of course, and I have to thank you once again for this video, because again, it's a visual that people can listen to in conjunction with the book, and realize that there is someone out there. You're not weird.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's weird. Okay, I don't worry about that. But we're all experiencing something, and we need to find the logic behind it. That's the whole human spirit.
Yeah.
Why do we all search for answers outside?
Yeah. Now, if this did resonate with people, how would they get in contact with you?
Okay, well, I've put an email address in the back of the book.
Oh, I see. Oh, good.
So, but when I get the website, they'll be able to contact me on the website as well.
Okay.
And the website is Matbre, MATBRE,
Okay.
Matbre Publishing.
Okay.
.com.au.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's not up and running live yet, but it will be in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, good. Good.
So now I actually did a design, and I did all the cover design myself. And then the publisher looked at it and said, right, we'll polish that up and make it totally different, which is what they did. Because my cover was completely white, and I did have a picture of an eye, but it was totally different to what this one is. But here it is.
Oh, look at that.
So they've done a great design there.
Now,
and if you actually look,
Go ahead.
Two worlds.
Sorry?
If you actually look at the picture, it's two worlds together, and the eye is in the middle.
And what does the eye signify to you?
Well, this particular eye is the color blue, which is my favorite color.
I see.
And in doing my research, I resonate with Arcturus.
With Arcturus.
And the color blue is the blue beings that are with me in this life, my spirit beings.
Well, it's very interesting.
And
If I could, Yeah, I'd like to mention something. Are you familiar with a from Melbourne, Australia, Dr. Marie Batchelor? Have you heard of her?
Yes.
Have you met her or talked to her?
No. No.
Well, she, I would like to introduce you. She is currently just about to travel to India, but she'll be back within several weeks. And I would like to connect you to, because she talks about the Blue Ray Foundation ETs. And she similarly, her ETs, the ETs that she's connected with, are blue ETs. And you just mentioned that it's the blue ETs that she's connected with. And she and I have been in discussions and around the whole issue of the blue ETs, who are very ancient, and they're the ones that have brought in the Vedas, supposedly, and all the knowledge of the yugas. So I would like, when Marie Batchelor returns, to connect both of you up, because I think that you may have had very similar experiences, and in conversations with Dr. Marie Batchelor that I've had, there are many similarities with my own contact experiences and hers that relate to the blue ETs as well. They're sort of ancient galactic beings that are now coming back in. And that's a commonality that I had in the back of my mind during our interview to bring it up, but I said, no, I won't. But as soon as you said blue, I said, okay, I've got permission to bring it up.
That's the higher consciousness saying yes.
Yeah. So I consider that to be very interesting. So maybe today's May 18th, that we're recording this, May 18th, 2017. So maybe in 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, I'll send you and Shia through an email, and we'll see about doing this. Now, you have the next topic that's coming up is past lives and regression. And I was wondering if you could share with us some of that, and how that got done.
Alfred, could we just end the interview right now so that I can?
Oh yeah. Sorry. And then here we go. We'll put it on pause, and okay. So, in terms of past lives and regression, that's a really very interesting time, and I'm very intrigued by the fact that you've mentioned that you seem to have real access to your past lives, and I'm very, very intrigued by that. If whatever you want to share, that
Okay, well, I think the first realization that something was a bit astray, logically, that is that this vision kept coming to me at various times, no matter where I was. And it's so hard to explain, but if you can imagine, wherever you are, a hologram just appears in front of you for a few seconds and disappears. That's what it's like, because it's not like everything else blacks out when you get the vision. it's as if something superimposes into your reality and disappears again. So this particular vision was, and there's obviously a trigger that does it, okay? Now, the trigger for me was when I saw the sun coming up from the east over the Adelaide Hills. And it was very, very early in the morning. And that triggered a past life memory of when I was in battle as a 15-and-a-half-year-old in medieval times. And it was my first battle, so I was excited. And then it stopped. And it just kept coming back time and time again. And it wasn't until years later that I got more clarification. And that's the part that I share in the book. Now, once having done that, I was very skeptical of past lives. Although I believed in reincarnation, I didn't believe that we could actually remember. So I was very skeptical, like a lot of people. But I was invited to go to a past life workshop. And even whilst I was doing it, I was very, very skeptical. But I played along and then realised something was coming through. And before I knew it, there was about 7 different lifetimes came through. Then all of a sudden, it was as if the floodgates had opened. And then in times after that, visions would appear and give me screenshots of other memories. But it's not just the screenshot. Sometimes it can be, for example, you might have a distinctive smell. It might be a perfume or how can I explain it? You've got an over-heightened sense of smell and you can smell everything. And then I realised at that time in the vision that I wasn't human. I was actually something else. So this is what freaked me out initially until such times as I was able to put it all together. And this is why a lot of people that have experiences just don't know how to explain it. And hence the title, because it is a reality that that words can't explain. And it's weird.
Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. That's very, very interesting. And I just really like the way that you can normalize it and, you know, and be comfortable with it and make other people comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And now you also talk about, quote, connecting the dots. And I was wondering, and you know, that's a phrase that people use when they're sort of putting things together. And I wondered in what context you were using it.
I guess I reviewed all the chapters and I thought, how can I put this in a way that it's not just one chapter for UFO buffs, one chapter for spiritual buffs, one chapter for past life buffs and so on. How do I put this together so that people can understand the bigger picture? So I thought the best way to do that is not to tell, but to describe how I went through it and how I connected the dots, so that if they can relate to any of the chapters or all the experiences, they may be able to then discern for themselves how to do it themselves. That's probably the easiest way that I could explain that chapter. Because I don't know how I connected the dots. I think other than I tuned into my intuition, which is the higher consciousness, which is where we all find the answers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you go on to talk about a spiritual connection.
Yes. Okay, the connection with spirit is a realization that something other than us is creating this reality. Or maybe I should rephrase that, is helping to create this reality, because I don't believe it's just us that are creating it. I believe we've got assistance, because in the higher dimensions, as we all know, they find it difficult to manifest in the third dimension, and we find it difficult to go to the fifth and higher. So we kind of congregate or meet in the middle, which is probably the fourth. But as we all know, there's a lot of nasties in there too. And this is why we have to break through the fourth to get to the fifth so that we can communicate. That's not as easy as done as it is said. So until we learn to discern everything and always look at the bigger picture, other than isolated incidences, because I think many times in my life I've watched people isolate things and they're very justified in their opinion. But if you look at it in a bigger picture, their opinion becomes irrelevant, and so does all of ours, because there's something else going on. So, and I honestly believe that the blue beings or the spirit guides or my intuition or my higher consciousness, whatever it is that I'm tuning into, is definitely helping me to discern what's going on and to be able to put it in normal terms for people. Because when Dr. Sam Muggsy said to me that I'm here to teach and that I've got a team around me, at first I thought, nah, that can't be true. But the more I tap into that, it must be true because of the way that I'm actually able to help people. And I can actually help people without them knowing. And I've noticed that in my daily life where I've had incidences over a period of years where certain people have changed and changed for the better. And some people just won't change, but that's their free will and that's their choice. But at the end of the day, the level of awareness is rising. And Dr. Sam Muggsy did say that as part of this team worldwide that I'm involved with, and I think I mentioned it in the first interview, is that we're not only here to raise awareness, but we're also here to help everyone ascend and the planet to ascend. But not everyone's going to, because that's their free will.
Right. And so this kind of, I guess, ties into a section of the book that you entitle Awareness and Ascension Symptoms. Could you
Yes.
talk about that?
Well, yeah, in brief, I've noticed, and probably you've noticed too, that a lot of people are going to the doctors and they're getting all these tests, and the doctors are putting them on medications for things that don't exist. Or they're getting these tests done and the doctors can't find anything. And there's a lot of information out there on the internet on Ascension Symptoms. So I didn't actually write anything about the symptoms other than the general ones, which are the synchronicities that happen.
Right.
With the visions of, like 1111 or
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Sequences of numbers.
Yeah.
Which is a sign that one is waking up.
Yeah.
The other is, the synchronicities that are happening in our daily lives are happening quicker, a lot quicker. But the physical symptoms of ascension actually come and go. They don't linger.
Right.
But they come in like waves of energy.
Yeah.
And when our immune systems are low, we're more prone to getting it, obviously.
Yeah.
And even myself, I mean, I've been to the doctors myself and had tests and they found nothing.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, they find other stuff, but that's fine. We deal with that. But at the end of the day, it's an awareness that something's not right and it needs to be fixed. And because of all the turmoil that is in the world, with the good fighting the bad, we're all going to feel that energy at some point.
Right. Now, you talk also about what you call your unique perspective.
Yes. Well, I've always been a bit different. So anyone that's known me personally knows that. My unique perspective. I guess in this chapter I've actually tried to describe or to encapsulate the whole thing with a perspective. And the reason I call it perspective is because, let's say, for example, we're at a hockey match or a football match and we see the same incident, but we're at loggerheads as to what actually happened.
Right.
And that's because we've got a different set of eyes with a different mindset. And it's all at that time as to how we perceive it. So this is why when I see articles and I see videos and testimonies and everything else, I take it with a pinch of salt, because I realise that there's always an element of truth. But yes, there is disinformation, and yes, there is a lot of to and fro from many people. But at the end of the day, the bigger picture, if we all tune into our own intuition, and this is my perspective, if we all tune into our own perspective, our own intuition, our higher consciousness, we will get what is true for us. And just because what is true for me doesn't mean it has to be true for you. Okay? But in the general big picture, it doesn't matter if I'm on this side and you're on that side, because we're still in the same frame. And
right.
That's a perspective.
Very interesting.
Because no two molecules, now let's take it in a scientific way, no two molecules or particles will ever actually be 100% on top or in or out of each other. They're always a little bit off or apart, but they all play a big part.
Indeed. Now, you then come to some conclusions, and kind of, and and I don't want to give away the book in a certain sense, but what are you sort of moving toward there in that part of the book?
Probably because in the chapter where it says unique perspectives, I again reread the whole book.
I see.
and tried to encapsulate the whole thing again.
Right.
I think Unique Perspective was more about the perspective side of it.
Yeah.
And the spiritual connection was how I got there.
Yeah.
So I figured that I had to write conclusion to wrap it up completely.
Yeah. Gotcha.
To encapsulate it all, yes.
Right. Very, very good. Very, very good. Now, you really are, in a way, starting to use a literary metaphor. You're opening up a new chapter in your life with this, I would venture to ask you.
Yes. And believe it or not, Alfred, believe it or not, Spirit tapped me on the shoulder once again and said, book 2, come on, you ain't got time to waste.
Oh, my Lord.
And I've already written 12,000 words so far.
12,000, that's a lot of, yeah.
But it's not about anything about to do with this book. It's probably more to do with how I sat on that rusty nail and got angry enough to go inward and tap into my intuition.
So you're a real teacher, and you write from your own experience.
Correct.
That is wonderful. That is quite an accomplishment.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, it is.
Compliments, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's quite a challenge, and that's quite an accomplishment. As a writer, I can share that with you. That is perhaps the most difficult of all things to do. And so that's why I say congratulations.
Well, I figured if I tried to use my imagination, it wouldn't be from the heart.
Yeah.
So I had to use personal experience to actually really communicate from the heart.
Right.
And I guess once I realized all these notes could be turned into a book, I guess once I'd written the book, this next book is trying to explain why I wrote the first book and how I got there.
Right. So tell me once again, the title, because I got the original edition of your book. Let me just, my pen just flew out of my hands, but the title as it was published of your book, it's Weird, a reality that words can't explain. Very good.
Because it is weird, and I mean, I'm trying my best to explain it, and I'm sure someone somewhere is probably going, huh, what? But I also feel, Alfred, that, you know, many people that are writers, very educated people like yourself, and there's not too many on the shop floor that work in, you know, labour-intensive jobs, for example, like myself, that actually write books. So that in itself is a novelty with the workmates, and they're going to love it.
Oh, yeah.
But I do have a lot of fun with them because initially when I was speaking with them, obviously, you know, I'm going to get ridiculed, but that's not the big issue here. The big issue for me was to have fun with it. So again, you know, I would say things like, "Bring me up, Scotty, the natives are getting restless."
Now, yeah, so what I'd like to say is this, is that what I find really extraordinary about your book is that there are many, many books that are out there by people who are writing about weird stuff out there.
Yeah.
But you're writing about weird that you're experiencing. So you're writing from your own experience.
Yeah.
And your own awareness coming into awareness. And you're saying, look, if this is happening to you, contact me if you feel that I can help facilitate your, coming into more awareness of it.
Or to connect you to others that can help.
Yeah, or to connect you to others that can
because
help.
I mean, that wonderful organisation called Free that Mary's involved with, now called Peer to Peer, where you can fill out the surveys. It's the biggest survey worldwide that helps people understand their experiences. And they can connect with one another to get over that, so that they don't feel isolated.
And so what we're going to do is in the video description, in the description part of this interview, and in the article that accompanies this, we will also have how people can contact you. And that'd be great. Well, is there anything that you had wanted to bring state for our audience or bring to the attention of our audience that you have not had the opportunity to bring up yet or to state yet?
I'll take a pause on that for a sec.
Sure, that's fine. Absolutely. Okay.
There's a couple of things I'd like to say.
Sure.
First of all, if you're experiencing any unusual things that you can't explain or that, are logically unexplainable, then don't try to be too serious about it, because for many, many years, I always was serious about everything. And I realised that a sense of humour is not only good for your health, but it also helps you to balance the reality of what's going on with your normal reality. So, and I'd like to say that with my workmates as well, not only did I do the old beam me up Scotty routine, but I would also, when I could see them, deliberately trying to make fun, I would say things like, have you heard the TV series Undercover Boss? They'd go, yes. I said, well, I'm actually undercover alien, so you better watch what you're saying. And I would laugh. And of course, they'd look at me and go, huh? And I'd say, yeah, I've got communication between the two, so say what you like. It's going to be out there. So, in a way, I've tried to make light of the situation, because the more I do that, the more they actually learn. And they're actually, I'm noticing that they're coming up with all sorts of articles saying, oh, Dermot, did you hear this? Did you see that? Yes. And they come to me for explanation. Now, I can't explain everything, obviously. No one can. But I can give them a perspective. And then I say, now it's up to you to follow that up with your perspective and your truth. So that's one message I wanted to get out there, because that's very important, that you don't take one person's word as gospel. You take it with a pinch of salt, you add the humour, and you discern your own truth. So that's it in a nutshell. And the other thing was, just try to live life from your heart, because we all use our mind, obviously, and that's fine, but it's what comes from the heart that really, really matters. And I guess the message that I'm seeing, or that I'm getting from people around the world, is this: do you honestly think that humanity was put on this planet seriously to fight one another the way we do? No, we weren't. We were put on here to live and to love and to learn. And we haven't been able to do that. Okay? And the reason for that is because we've been manipulated. Now, you can either believe that or not, but irrespective of what's happened, we're not living the way we are supposed to. So my biggest thing that I harp on is that humanity, when it wakes up, at the moment, it's like a belligerent teenager kicking and screaming, saying, no, we want to do this. Well, unfortunately, we have to grow up as a race. And once we learn to do that, we will all live in peace. And the best way I can sum this up is when we have these tragedies around the world, whether they be shootings, tsunamis, earthquakes, or aeroplane crashes, whatever, you see the true human spirit come to the forefront. That's the true human spirit, when we go in and we help others who we don't know, who we have no association with and no reason to help. We just do. Why? Because we do it with love from the heart.
Well, thank you. Those are very, very forward-looking insights. Thank you very much.
So I'm a very unique person, yeah. I like to muck around too.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you. First of all, from the last time that we spoke until now, you've really gone to a whole new reality.
Yeah.
And you've opened up a whole new chapter, and you've brought us a book, and there's a book behind it. And so our listeners are hopefully will become your readers, and they'll when this comes out, they'll be able to go and delve more deeply into Dermot, the cosmic the cosmic philosopher.
You keep coming up with these titles, I tell you. Hey, if that one gets around work, oh my God. Philosopher. Oh dear. No, look, at the end of the day, I'm going to have a bit of fun with that.
Right. No, sure.
The way to deal with it.
Exactly. Well, I really have to honor you, and we all do, and honor your hard work and your really your dedication and focus, and you're really listening to your higher self and your wisdom and your guides, and saying, hey. And I know that a person that is writing from their inner truth and their heart and their experience is the quintessence of writing. I mean, that's the ultimate. So kudos to you.
And I'd like to say once again, thank you very, very much, Alfred, for the platform to be able to not only help others, connect others, or people to understand, but in reviewing the book and putting it out there so that we can help one another.
Exactly. Good. Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.